Welcome to the braless lush.
Yeah, Toots, it's Laura, your Braless bestie and your unhooked host of the Braless Blush podcast. It is a new year. It's January 2026. And I will say, I normally have a cocktail nearby, and I have a mug here that says there might be wine in here. There might be, there might not, but I am abiding by dry January this year. So there is no wine in here. How boring is life without wine or a good mocktail? But I'm excited to have this lovely lush with me today. She may be braless, she may not be. She can tell us or not. But let's just talk really quick about what's a lush. Okay, you're thinking lush, inebriated, good time on a Saturday night. No, yeah, it could be. But what is a lush? And a lush is that thing you crave, that thing you want more of after 50, and you deserve that little bit of peace. You deserve to write that book. You deserve to go to that salsa class because I'm all about dancing, right? Well, Lushes, I am so happy to have with me today the lovely Maria Dastur. And she has so many good things to tell us today. And I want to tell you a little bit about her and what she's going to teach us. And I think any lush over 50 has just a million things to teach us. So let's learn a little bit about Maria because Maria knows what it means to start over. Why? Because she has lived it. How? Well, after a 12-year career gap spent raising her family and navigating chronic illness, Maria came back stronger than ever. She rose into nonprofit leadership, moved her family across the country, and ultimately created Second Half Community. My God, I love this, Maria. Second Half Community, a bold space for reinvention, clarity, and career transformation. I love all that. Reinvention, clarity, and transformation. You can't go wrong with that. Today, Maria helps women unapologetically prioritize their desires or their lushes, as I like to say, reclaim their power, and define work in a way that fuels their life, not the other way around. As a certified positive intelligence coach, oh, I can't wait to hear about that. As a certified positive intelligence coach, she combines mental fitness training with real world strategy to help her clients break through self doubt, stop the self sabotage, and build their big dreams.
Yeah.
Hi, Dollface. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me today. I'm excited for this conversation.
Me too. Me too. I am, boy, there's just so much that you have to bring to the martini bar here today, Maria, as we sit and chat.
Perfect place to have a conversation.
With or without a real cocktail, chit chat among girls is some of the best ways to spend your day, spend your time, spend an evening, spend a phone call, face to face here together.
Absolutely.
Mhm. So, Maria, what has been going on with you since you turned 50?
Well, it kind of snuck up on me. I don't know about you. what, what happened? Since I've turned 50, the process of just figuring out what that next is, what my lush is, that's honestly a word I never used before today, really. Finding my own next best thing and guiding other people to their next best thing at this time where everything's changing. Our bodies are changing, our families are changing. Often kids are leaving the nest or have already left. There may be the need to care for aging parents. We are well established in our communities and sometimes in our roles at work, sometimes not. It just depends. So it's a lot of evolution and seeing that there's less boundaries. whether they were real boundaries or cultural boundaries or imagined boundaries, they just kind of fall away as you get more secure in who you are and what you bring to the table.
And you know how to pivot because you've done it, and it wasn't just, oh, I'm bored with this job and I think I'll find another one. Moving your family to a whole nother state, what was the reason for that?
Yeah, I've pivoted careers and lives so many times. We would go on vacation every year out west, almost every year. We'd drive across the country. We just kept going out west. And one time when we were on vacation, a house popped up on Zillow because I don't know about you, but every time I'm on vacation, I'm always on Zillow looking up, ooh, how about that house? Right? Living in that imagined world of could this really be my life? And I was on Zillow and this house popped up and it was just special. And I showed the kids and they were really excited about it, scrolling through all the photos. My husband was driving, rolling his eyes because we're on vacation. And I said, I'm getting a realtor. I don't know what possessed me to do that. I don't know why I felt that was even possible. We had three children who were in middle school age. Well, we had lived in our community for 20 years, but it was just this moment of what if. We saw some multiple houses on this. When we came back through, we saw 4 houses and we were driving back across the country. And before we had even hit Chicago, my husband turned to me and said, you know what? Let's do this. And we did. Neither of us had jobs lined up. We didn't really have a plan, just flying by the seat of our pants.
I love that because you've listened to those little whispers, as I like to call it, and the fact that you just said, "Screw it, let's do it." Oh, wow, that rhymes. Who knew? "Screw it, let's do it." Oh, I like that. I don't know. Maybe there's a new Braless Lush song coming along. I think there was what's his name in the 80s? Frankie Goes to Hollywood, like, "Relax, don't do it." So instead of that, we're saying, "Screw it, let's do it." Yeah, I love it. I love it. So your hubby was, on board. He rolled his eyes, but then all of a sudden he was on board with the move.
He was, and it was very shocking. He is definitely not someone who takes risks naturally. There were some things going on in his employment, and he had hit 20 years, and I think the realization just hit. I can either leave now or I have to stay another 10 years. And it was not a good situation that he was in, and he was like, "Let's go."
And what were you doing at the time?
In the moment, there was this like, "Wait, what? We can do this?" And this sense of excitement, but also this sense of, "Wait, are we really doing this?" Because when you do things that are crazy, you are afraid and you do have those moments of doubt. And there were many moments of doubt between that car conversation and closing on this home. Even one day he's like, "We don't have to do this. We can stop it." And I'm like, "No, let's just do it."
So what was going through your head at that point? What do you think was that nudge or that push of the whisper, if you will? Where do you think that came from?
Those whispers that when you get into the daily monotony of your life, there's this can't be everything. This can't be my life. I need something different. I need a new challenge. I need a new chapter. And when this opportunity popped up to move, ironically, I had forgotten until this moment. I was in a job process. I had been interviewing for 8 months. There was this brand new facility that was opening a couple miles from my home, and it was my dream job. And I had gone on interviews during construction phase, and it was just going on and on. And before we left on that trip, I had gone to my 4th interview, and they said, "All right, we will have your job offer to you in your email on Friday." And I left on my trip all excited. I'm going to go on a vacation. I'm going to come back and start my dream job. And Friday, the email didn't come. And on Monday, I got a 2-line email. "We don't have a job for you." And I was like, "Ok okay." And that probably was part of that kick in the back, that extra momentum that you needed, that anger, that frustration to say, "Well, screw all you. I'm gonna just move across the country."
Wow. And Maria, what kind of job did you have? Tell us a little bit about what kind of work you were involved with at the time.
That was actually going to be one of my first jobs back full time after having this large career gap of 12 years from caregiving and then battling rare and chronic disease. And it was just a really exciting opportunity. My past work, my undergraduate degree is in athletic training, and I loved every minute of it, being on the sidelines, helping athletes return to what they love. But that job, the hours stink, the pay is even worse, the liability was huge. I had gone back to school and got an MBA, and then I worked in public health for a little.
Congratulations. That I mean, girl, that's a big accomplishment. I got mine a million years ago. It seems like I need to go renew mine or something. But but it's a huge accomplishment. No lie. Girl power.
Yeah, and,
Uh,
and I didn't do it because I felt like I needed a master's degree to stand out. I felt like I couldn't get a job with a kinesiology degree. Like, it just wasn't opening any doors. So I got that MBA, and I ended up getting pregnant 1 year after I graduated and leaving the workforce.
yeah. Yeah, and for my so I don't have children, so I don't have that perspective, but talk a little bit about what was that career gap, um, and then you were looking to go back into work with this 8-month job process, which I don't know how long ago that was, Maria, but it's no better these days, but I know you're gonna help us figure that out when you talk to us more about what you're doing now. But how do you talk to moms who have had that gap of caregiving for kids, maybe even for parents as well, and they're thinking about going back into the workforce? For you, what was that like? Talk about some of the things that were going through your mind that you were apprehensive about or had concerns over.
Yeah, absolutely. It was planned. We knew that I was going to stay home with our children. I had planned to stay home until our youngest child had reached kindergarten, when they were back in school full time. And that was when I was disabled. I was very ill, battling several different illnesses, just trying to figure it out, just to get through every day. And my career at that point was just so far removed. And it took many years to heal, to find the right doctors, to get the right treatments. But during that process, I started to step up and volunteer in different ways, both at this with the in my community as the soccer parent, the PTA mom, all that stuff. But I also was volunteering in the rare and chronic disease community, doing all these things. And that's what I see happens with parents and women and caregivers. You feel like you've checked out of your career, but really you haven't. It's just changed. You're still serving, you're still learning, you're still growing, you're leading, you're doing project management, you may be doing public speaking. Sometimes people are volunteering as a treasurer because they were a bookkeeper in their past life or have a financial background. So, the message that I give to moms and people who have taken a gap is you are upskilling and learning and evolving as a person, and it's all transferable skills. You just have to know how to package it.
That is an interesting term. You said upscaling, and usually when we think about upscaling, we're thinking about our homes or a car or upscaling. I don't know, pick a thing. But upscaling our careers is an interesting idea, and it's so true. Everyday life skills are continually being used, even though it's not at a job, but you're still using them some capacity.
Absolutely. And what happened with me is this beautiful, humongous rec facility, state of the art, was opening up. And I probably wouldn't have had applied for a job in that field because that was my old life. That's who I was. but it was still really exciting to me. It was like coming home, and that would have been a fun job, and it would have also been a big piece of my community because it was so close physically to my community. And when that fell through, what how I ended up getting back in the workforce at the director and executive director level was through nonprofit work. And that aligned so clearly with all of the volunteer roles that I had been doing for so many years for free.
Yeah. What kind of volunteering did you do? I'd love to have listeners learn more about maybe some of the opportunities out there or things that you did that they might not think about. How were you volunteering your time, Maria?
Absolutely. And, at first I followed my heart and I volunteered as the different sports parents. I would be the photographer and do the end of the year slideshows. And you laugh, but I learned all these graphic design skills. I learned all these social media marketing skills. I learned these communication skills. I also volunteered at the school. I designed the yearbook. I'm not a graphic designer, just figured it out. Then I moved on to that rare and chronic disease work as I was battling my own. I was in the support groups, then I was running the support groups. Then I started running conferences for patients and conferences for physicians. And that was everything using those newly acquired graphic design skills, social media, learning how to do all those things. This was back in 2013, 14, 15, and there. So that, you can guess it, like what kind of uh, tools we were using in just learning these new technologies as someone who had no formal training. I also began to lobby on Capitol Hill. At that point, I was living in the DC metro region. So it just was an obvious thing to get involved with. And I was scared to death the first time I had to go and talk to Congress, like me. Like I was in my pajamas and my athleisure yesterday, and now today I'm in a suit blowing out my hair because that's always fun when you get to dress up after you've been a mommy for 12 years. And go into the halls of our government and impact change. It's so powerful.
That's incredible that you went through that. So talk about an upscaling, which again, I love that term, but I don't think that women think big enough when it comes to the impact that they can have, the impact that they have had on what they might consider their little world or their little bubble. And I think you and I have talked about imposter syndrome in other conversations and how that affects women, affects all of us. Shoot, I've thought about that too in terms of who am I to be talking about 50 and reinventing yourself when I don't know that I've been that great at it myself. And I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up at 55. But I think it's just, we're always saying we're a work in progress and we just keep moving one step to the next. And you have to just stay open, I think, too, to the possibilities. So, do I know where the Brawless Slush podcast is going to go? I don't know, but I'm doing something that fills me up, that brings me joy. And let's all figure out what this next chapter means to all of us for what's important to you and me and everyone else listening out there.
Yeah, it's building community, gravitating towards your energy, creators, making your impact. There's so much self-fulfillment in impact. And impact can be multiple things. It doesn't mean just bringing home a giant paycheck. It's like you're doing, building community, having conversations, putting ripples out into the universe that can help someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, it's about saying yes to more things too. I
Absolutely.
think we get older and we get tired and we lose energy. And some days we just want to stay home in our fluffy slippers and flannel pajamas. But when you get asked to go speak in DC, like you did, uh, you say yes, right?
Right, it's just every day doing things that are a little scary, and it doesn't have to be talking to Congress. It can be trying a different recipe or putting on makeup a different way or putting yourself out there in a different way, showing up for people in a different way, going out and seeing an interest. Do you want to go take dancing or learn a different skill? It's getting out of your zone of routine and that cliche, your comfort zone, but just trying new things because if you don't keep pushing your boundaries, your world gets small really fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. And again, for women who have families, I would think too that you get you get caught up in that family group and you get comfortable in that. Even it's hard, but you get comfortable in that day to day and what that looks like. And I think we all know sometimes it's better to just stay in the comfort zone versus move on to something that's scary. And again, thinking about that imposter syndrome. And I think, Maria, you might have mentioned it in another conversation that we had when you had an opportunity to speak on stage, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. I had spoken previously in my public health career and obviously did different coaches and teams. And I've always been a public speaker, but that was one of the things that I did to grow. When I first moved to Colorado, and we live on a mountaintop, like we're 30 minutes from school, we're 30 minutes from a Starbucks and groceries. It's really lonely. And I had to figure out how to upskill and build my network. So I joined Toastmasters.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
I had not heard about Toastmasters in a million years because I used to go and met a bunch of really cool people. But yeah, what a great way to meet people. And what was your Toastmasters experience like?
Well, I'm still in it. I am 4 years into it. I've done multiple pathways. That's how you move through it. But I realized that Toastmasters has become one of my third spaces. And if you've never heard that term, third space, it's where you go outside of your school, your work, your home. It's where you go to find community, to have conversations, very much like what you're creating here, and it has enabled me to get outside of this mountain bubble and get into a more urban bubble where people don't look like me, talk like me, think like me. And it's really helped me not only to grow as a speaker, but as a human.
And Toastmasters, if people don't know, it is a group that helps people with getting confident speaking in groups. Is that right, Maria? At least kind of at its basics.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are all different types of clubs, and I belong to several. But a basic Toastmaster club, often people go there because they need to speak at work. And that shows up in how you're promoted and received as a team leader. So people go to learn to be more effective with communication and their confidence. There are people who go because they are English second as a second language learners, and they get a chance to keep practicing their speaking. And then other people go because they want to be better at speaking, either because they have to give a toast at an upcoming wedding, or because they want to speak professionally. So there's a lot of different people who show up at these groups. But the lesson here is you get more out of it than just learning to speak. There's leadership opportunities, and Toastmasters is more than just an opportunity to improve your speaking. There are leadership opportunities. As I mentioned, it's part of my community. We go out and do happy hours and those sorts of things. And, as an adult, it's pretty hard to make new friends. So, if you're looking for something scary to try, check out your local Toastmasters club.
Yeah. Yeah, why do you think that is? As we get older, it is harder to make friends because I'm starting to see more on social media and on podcasts about how we get older and it's harder to make friends, it's harder to break into a group. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, I don't know that I know the answer. All I know is I have a senior in high school. So my last one, there's often where I'm like, oh, well, that was the last soccer game ever. Oh, that was the last concert ever. But you also realize that those parents, those were your tribe, your crew, and suddenly everyone's just shattered. The thing to remember is I know that there's a lot of adults out there that are feeling the exact same way, and it's just figuring out how to bring all these individuals who are everywhere back together around something. That's why getting involved with a different club, whether it's a running club, a art club, or a Toastmasters club or something, it's just figuring out how to get around people who have a similar affinity interest. Because that's when you can rekindle. And it kind of feels like dating. When I moved to Denver, I had no friends. Like, how do I meet people? Uh,
Oh my gosh. Maria, and you are free to talk about as much as you're comfortable talking about it, but there are so many women, as you know, and as I know, because we both are in some level of advocacy work, patient advocacy work. And um, some people know that I have a second podcast called the Desperate for a Diagnosis podcast. And but so many women have chronic illnesses and trying to manage everything and yet have an impact on their world, or they want to, and they want to be able to have some get up and go where they're when they're get up and go, got up and went. And sometimes you're just not able to do it. But if you are speaking to a woman who does have a chronic illness and still maybe managing family, but wants to kind of break out of the mundane and the norm and try new things, how would you suggest she start warming up to doing that?
yeah, I mean, every disease has a patient organization, and patient organizations need volunteers. There are so many different ways you can volunteer. Uh, Sometimes it's virtual, sometimes it's in person. There's one-off events. I'm feeling great right now. I'm going to go sign up. I see they're having a fundraising walk. I'm going to go sign up and hand out the t-shirts at the event. That's just going to get me out in the crowd. I'm going to feel the exhilaration. I'm going to be able to meet people in this community. That's one way. Maybe you're someone who is a little more limited and has to stay home. Well, you can share your story and become an advocate. There's lots of different organizations who work with patient advocates to help you learn how to tell your story. I recommend people go to Toastmasters to practice, but you can do those sorts of things. You can also work behind the scenes. You know, if you're a whiz graphic designer, almost every patient org, especially the small ones, need you because none of them are great at that branding, graphic design. Maybe you could do a Facebook fundraiser for your birthday that benefits your patient org or research for whatever disease you have. Maybe you can go to a support group and just listen and support the person next to you at that meeting and that day because you're a little bit out ahead of them in the journey. There's many ways.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot out there if you look for it, right? Or at least do a little do a little digging, do a little networking, because we all deserve to show ourselves. As I always say, no one's going to know. Certainly, there's social media, but I think that there's a benefit to being in front of people and talking with people and just letting people see who you are and what you have to offer. And it's like, it's like with business networking. We could be on LinkedIn all day long and posting all day long on LinkedIn. But I would bet you the majority of the relationships that have turned into either good networking opportunities or work, whatever it might be, whether it's full time or freelance, whatever it might be, has been in a more face to face capacity, is my hunch. So you have to let
Yeah.
people see you. Who are you? Yes.
And opportunities build on themselves. You can start small and you never know what doors open next.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so a door did open for you, or you built the house with the door and you opened it yourself. But you now have this amazing business where you're helping women thinking about their career in this second chapter or second act, however we want to talk about it. But walk us through what you're doing, Maria, and how you're helping women.
Yeah, you always want to help people that are behind you in the same journey. And I work with women specifically who have completely and utterly lost traction. They may have had a nonlinear career. They may have been underemployed because they were caregiving and balancing all the other things, and suddenly got unemployed because that's happening more and more now. Or they might just be going into that next stage of life because of empty nesting or divorce or all of the illness. I work with people who have chronic illnesses. There's a lot of reasons why you might be looking to completely reinvent yourself. And that's what I've been able to build. And I love this work of when you get on a call with someone for the very first time and, the shoulders are a little low and they're like, they want more. You can see the little spark in their eyes, but they just don't know how to get there, how to package themselves, how to really realize their self-worth and sit up and get out there and go and make that impact and the money or whatever is important to you in this next career move.
Any tips you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, I always invite people to start with identifying your non-negotiables and your needs. And so many people skip that step. You often just pull out that resume and brush the dust off and try to remember what the heck the bullets were from that very last job because you never updated it. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, and then that's the thing though. It's different in terms of how resumes are being, I won't even use the word review, but how they're being processed, I suppose, with the advent of AI, of course, and just trying to understand how the algorithms work. And it, again, just really emphasizes why it's good to, my grandma, I'll say it this way, my grandma, who never drove in her life and was basically at home most of the time, we would pick her up to go somewhere shopping or dinner or whatever. And we would get back home and she would say, it was good to get out. So do what grandma does. You need go get out there and network with people. And there's just it's a different world out there, over even 40, let alone 50, if you're looking for a job, 60, etc. So in this second half here, Maria, how do you suggest women start thinking about work and jobs and applying and kind of repackaging their skills?
One is, like I said, figuring out what you need. What's the minimum income you need? What benefits you need? And then figuring out your non-negotiables because so many women are afraid, especially if you're coming from this place of not having the most confidence that, wait, I'm allowed to say I only want to work from these hours or I have to have this benefit or, yes, if you don't figure out what you need and you want, then how can you build it? And if you'll just negotiate away everything, and 6 months or a year from now, you're gonna feel broken, burned out, discontent, and you're just gonna be right back in it. So you might as well just do it right the first time. So it's number 1 is figuring out what it is that you need and you want, what it needs to provide you to build this life that you're building for yourself. Step 2 is figuring out, obviously, what you're building as far as what you want to do, what are your skills. But I hope you start with those skills that light you up and not just who you were, who your degree says you were, who your past experience says you were. Yeah, you're going to need to pull a few of those transferable skills, but I want you to build what you want to build, who you're becoming. And then step 3 is, okay, not sending out tons of applications into the ether to be maybe seen or not. It's networking. No, the stats change, but 45 to 85% of all jobs landed these days are landed through connections in your network. So you're, right on it.
And so, how would you suggest a woman who wants to pursue a job, and I think we all still probably think about, well, send the resume anyway, you never know kind of thing. But when so many of us are so remote, And let's say it is one of those, more corporate-y kind of jobs versus say, I just want to work at like a little boutique or a little store, things like that. But if it's a job where, we'll just call it good old corporate America for sake of conversation, how would you suggest someone build a network outside of say LinkedIn or even how to use LinkedIn? What thoughts do you have there?
Yeah. Well, I tell people if 85% of jobs are landed through connections in your network, spend 85% of your time doing that network cultivation, whether that's in person on LinkedIn, affinity groups, whatever it is. Yes, absolutely send those targeted applications. You have to remember, and LinkedIn will tell you how many people already applied for that job. Those corporate jobs get 1,000 resumes. They get so many resumes, they turn off the thing. Stop, just stop. And often I've experienced with my clients that feeling of they're applying for jobs that don't even exist. It's like the HR people are just trying to keep their pipeline full in case a vacancy suddenly appears. They'll be ahead of the game. One of the things I hear often from especially the target audience that I work with is, Maria, I don't have the kind of network that's going to open doors for me. And I say right back at them, that's a story. That's a story that you're telling yourself, and it's not true. One of the women that I worked with recently, this is kind of hysterical. She was at her brother's house and she was in his driveway talking to the neighbor, and that led to a job interview, and that's the furthest she had gotten along in the process. I was like, yeah, in her brother's driveway.
Wow.
No,
Yeah,
so
I always say if you don't, you have to open up your mouth, and if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's the first thing. And I think with women, we just are groomed, if you will, trained, especially in our generation as little girls, to ask for what we want, and it's always, oh yes, please, thank you. I don't want to be a bother.
yes,
We're not raised that way.
yes, be a bother, but be clear. People want to help. But if you say, "Well, I'm looking for an HR job," how that's not super clear. I'm looking for an HR job at a Fortune 100 company. I've worked with departments of this size. Have some more things in the ballpark. Or when you have a casual conversation with someone, have an idea ahead of time. I guess it wouldn't be a casual. If you were going to a networking event and you could see who was going to be there, you can research people ahead of time. Oh, this person has connections at Amazon or another company. When you talk to them, say, no, it would be really helpful. I would love to talk with someone who you may know in Amazon who works in the HR department. Could you arrange a virtual introduction? Just being very specific, doing your homework ahead of time, knowing what it is you need and how people can help you. Tag them in, but be clear.
Mhm. I like that. Yeah, you have to really be focused on what it is you're looking for so that when you ask for help, people have an idea of what it is you're looking for. And if they're going along their day or in meetings, or maybe they're meeting with clients and whatnot, they could say, oh, I know somebody who I
Yeah.
just talked with who very specifically is looking for this kind of opportunity.
Absolutely. A past job search of mine, I wanted to try to get into a pharma company because I wanted to do patient advocacy work for pharma. And my sister-in-law's cousin worked at pharma, so she set up she and did a virtual introduction for me. Kept it short, concise, but at the end of the call, I said, "Who should I talk to next?" And he forwarded me on to someone else, and that person we had a conversation, and she forwarded me on to someone else. I ended up talking to 4 different people at this company. I learned a lot about what they were doing, what kind of problems they're facing, how I might be able to solve problems and serve this organization, and they got to know me so that when there was a job opening, they were able to give my resume to the hiring manager, cutting that line. So these are just ways that this networking, how you can use it to really get ahead and get past those thousands of applications.
I don't know that the big wide world of job search is going to change for the better anytime soon in terms of being easier. But if you have some perspective, Maria, on how AI might help with putting together our pitch, if you will, our elevator speech of applying for a job and getting very focused or specific on what it is that we're looking for, what we have to bring to the table. Any thoughts on how AI can help?
Yeah, I use it every day, all day. I teach my clients how to use it for their application processes because you do still have to have a workable resume. And there is no excuse in this day and age with AI to not match your resume to the job listing for every job. It used to take hours to do this, and you probably only would do it for the ones that you really wanted. Well, now you take the job listing, you take your resume, you put them into AI, and you say, will you align my resume for this role? And it puts all the keywords in for you. It moves the bullets to the top that align best. And I ask my clients to take an extra step and say to AI, what am I missing? Or are there any pieces, things that I should talk about? Because sometimes your resume doesn't have all of the breadth and scope of your experience. There's no way possible. And it will remind you, it'll find those holes for you so that you can add those bullets in. And since you already have the AI programmed, it's already set up. The very next thing is, will you write a cover letter for this? And I usually ask my clients to put in a few sentences of their true feelings or alignment or something they know about the company to personalize it because AI is not you. You do need to put yourself in there. With the resume, you can copy it pretty much. You have to tweak a little bit, make sure that it invents things. It will invent things about you, and you're like, oh, I didn't know I did that. So make sure you check it. But with the cover letter specifically, don't take it word for word. It just gives you a really big boost, and then it only takes another 10 or 15 minutes to get it to exactly what you want. 15, 30 minutes tops, and you have your targeted, customized application. So do it.
And the thing about AI for is, there's an angle where some people are using it for not good reasons, as we are starting to know or understand about the power of AI. But on in the good side of the equation, I think what's interesting is that, well, at least the way I've used it, where I've looked at different consulting work because I'm a freelancer, and I think to myself, well, what do I know? I just did some marketing work in my time, and I had a spray tanning business at one time, and I worked in clinical trials, and then I worked in event management. I did all this stuff, like the functions of the job. But what was really cool, and I've done it a few times, is that I put in all those things. I did this, and I just like blabbed to the AI and said, "Hey, this is what I've done. Help me understand or help put together a way for me to repackage all of this." Because again, going back to how you feel about yourself in terms of, oh, I only did that, or I only did this little thing, or I just volunteered. Well, AI took all of the stuff I've done and reorganized it and said, you are a transformation consultant because you've done internal branding and you transformed organizations that were changing its name. You have done market research for billion-dollar pharmaceutical brands and wrote these market research reports that's going to help them direct the next step in their strategy. So my point is, it's never well, I just done that, or I can only do this. And why is that a big deal? Well, what's nice is that, and we know that the AIs are trained to make us happy, but they can really kind of pump up your ego too to make you think differently about yourself, which I think is something that if you have been in your bubble for a long time, you're not getting feedback from people in a way that you would get feedback in a job. Let's say your family knows you, loves you, and Like, yeah, that's mom. That's what she does for us. But maybe no one's saying, Mom, we love the way you do this, or thanks for doing that, or you really had an impact on me. And I think again, AI kind of has a way of saying, no, look what you've done. It's way bigger than what you think or the way you've been looking at it.
I love that. Yes, it's like the 360 review where you ask for feedback from others and how they see you. But like it's an additional and
Mm.
yes, very fun. Anyone who can give you insights and ideas and help you open doors because you get to see things you didn't even know were possible. Like I didn't know that was a thing. Wait, I could do that thing. Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Maria, I think it's so cool what you're doing and how you're working with women. Any last thoughts about how women could think about their next steps in their reinvention?
I give you permission, not that you need it, to put yourself first. You have to put yourself first to understand what you can possibly build, what really lights you up, what impact you want to have, what kind of energy you want to surround yourself with. It takes a little bit of quiet self exploration or maybe some time with your AI buddy, but you can get there. Connect with people, keep listening to different podcasts, especially joining us in the Lush Lounge, of course.
I love it.
Uh, yeah, but just get out of your bubble and keep exploring so that you can become whoever it is that you're meant to become in this next stage.
So, Maria, what's your lush?
Well, my personal lush is adventure. It's not using age as an excuse. It's moving across the country because I like to ski. I like to be outside. I like to do things. And just to keep trying to learn new things and be a different person. And my business lush is just helping other women to do the same, to evolve and be who they want to be in this next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important to get to a point where you put yourself first, and whether you've been raising a family or taking care of parents, or maybe you're still doing that, or maybe you've just been stuck in that crummy corporate job and you're thinking there has to be a better way to make a buck, and yeah, it's definitely more enjoyable, or using your skills in a different way or in a way that is impactful for you. So absolutely, absolutely. Well, Maria, how can our listeners get a hold of you if they want to learn more about your coaching services? And tell us about your certification.
Yeah, well, always find me on LinkedIn. I am the only Maria Dastur on LinkedIn. And the reason why you want to do that is because my network becomes your network. I can make virtual introductions that might open doors for you. Also, my website is secondhalfcommunity.com. Explore. There's some great things there for you. I picked up a positive intelligence certification because after about 6 months to a year of being a career coach, it was painfully obvious that mental fitness, the confidence piece, is the biggest piece in any career pivot. And I wanted to make sure that I had the tools in my tool belt to be able to support my clients, not only in the practical stuff, like doing the resumes and having a strategy and practicing interview stuff, but to have that mental resilience to go through that roller coaster that is a career pivot because it's the highs and lows and everything in between. So it is a fun little tool that has saved me and many of my clients, both in their careers and in their life.
Maria, thank you so much for sharing your story and your knowledge and your wisdom with us here in the Lush Lounge at the Martini Bar here. And I can't wait for us to do it again.
Thank you for having me. I love this community. And next time, not during dry January.
That's right. Well, I'm with you there, sister. Next time we will whip up some cocktail or something yummy while we're hanging out and just having some girl chat. So I want to thank you, Maria, for being here. And I want to thank all of you beautiful lushes out there who have been listening today. And if there's something that you heard that lit you up, please go ahead and follow and subscribe, all those good things, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. If you're listening on the apps, I am on YouTube, so you can see what is going on here in the Lush Lounge. And also go to my website. If you hit subscribe, you can send in for a free little download called the Braless Lush Screw It Strategy. So if that's where you are in life, Maria, we will sign you up. Yes, there is a version on the website, and then I have a more expanded version that I put the link in the show notes with the 2026 Braless Lush Screw It Strategy, which I think is about 19 pages. So it's an expanded way to say screw it and just do it. I think that's maybe the new bumper sticker for the year, something like that. Well, to all of you lushes out there, I hope you get a move on whatever your lush is for 2026. Sign up for the Screw It Strategy Playbook. Check out Maria's LinkedIn, link in with her. And I wish you all an amazing year, everyone. So meow for now and chin chin. Thanks, Maria.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Welcome to the braless lush.